Yo, why does Pauls look like that, yo? He frozen on my end. Am I the only one that sees this?
Go ahead, Pauls. Start us off, baby. Let's go.
I can't hear anything. You guys hear me? What's up, guys?
Yeah.
Welcome to
Bring it,
episode
baby.
12 of Psychotic and
God,
Iconic. Pauls
bring
here
it,
with my co-hosts
baby.
Nick Freeze and Mikey P. Philly Phil decided not to join us tonight, but that's okay. We're going to hold the fort down. Thank you to everybody that likes, follows, and subscribes to all of our platforms. Thank you to everybody that's tuned into the live stream tonight. If you haven't done so already, please go ahead and share it. Hey, take us away.
All right, everybody. Episode 112 of P&I, powered by Playmaker, is brought to you by Prize Picks, your home for daily fantasy sports. Okay? Also, the usual, we are live right now at the Props Network at propshq.com. Be sure to go over there and subscribe. I do not know what you're waiting for with all this football coverage. You won't find it any better than here at P&I. Last but not least, okay, merch, fantastic fabric. You can see Nick Theories has our hoodie on. All right. You can see this mug I got in my hand. All this courtesy of IPP Pressworks, Cherry Hill, New Jersey. If you want P&I merchandise, please DM us today for pricing and details. Pauls has the white mug. Go ahead, show us that one more time, Pauls.
Heat.
Fantastic.
All heat.
There you go. All right.
Fantastic fabric, fantastic ceramics, all that shit.
And all that other shit. So, guys, we have an announcement for everybody to start off the show. As you can see, it's a different layout tonight. Philly Phil is not with us for tonight. This show tonight is also our only show this week. That's right. Do not have a show this Thursday. So, our next show after this one is going to be next Thursday. So 2 one-show weeks in a row. All right. We will obviously keep you posted on everything. But for tonight we have a mix of a recap from the weekend and then a preview of the upcoming week. We're not going to give you our picks, though. We're going to preview the games, and we're going to post our picks to social media on Thursday for the Thursday Night Football game. So everybody has the usual information courtesy of P&I. All right?
Stay tuned.
Everybody ready to go?
Born.
Come on, cuz. Why?
You already know where we got to start. The Philadelphia Eagles. All right? The Eagles are the only undefeated team remaining in the NFL. They face the Cardinals in Arizona. They are already favored at 5 points on the road, facing the Cardinals and Kyler Murray. Guys, let's go back to the game, though, the Eagles game versus the Jags. They went down 14-zip early. They come back, they dominate, and took control of the game. Is there anything that made you worried about this performance, or you still think the Eagles are legit and maybe they just were a little rusty to start?
No, not too much. I mean, if anything, I was encouraged to get down by 14 to a team that's top 5 in offense top 10 in offense and defense. I mean, I thought it was impressive to come back like that, to be honest. It just shows resilience. It showed Nick Sirianni making adjustments on the fly quick. It was just, it started out muddy, but you have to win games ugly too. Not every game is going to be a blowout. When the Bills against Miami and things like that, you need to learn to win games like that. And even if it's against a team that's not as good as you or anything like that, these are moments to build on. These are growth moments. These are moments that you learn from when you get down into game 15, 16, 17, and you're getting ready for your playoff run. You can lean on things like this and you can learn from this.
I love it, Pauls. Theories, what are you thinking? Are you worried at all about the Eagles in this performance?
No, there's nothing to worry about. It was a monsoon. Did you see the weather? It didn't stop raining for like 4 days. It's still raining. So no, weather play a factor. They got down 14-0 to a team that is kind of hot right now. They're playing really good football. So look, the Eagles came back, they won, and they played really well. I mean, look, to be down 14-0 in weather conditions like that and come back and winning, it says a lot about the team. I mean, this is a good football team. And I got to be honest with you guys, I think the Jags are a mirage. I think they're just playing good football right now. But, you know, as you can see with Trevor Lawrence, he can't hold on to the football. He's got his moments where he's good, but, you know, he doesn't really put it all together. He dropped the ball like 5 times. It's all about ball security in those kind of games, and he's got to know that. So for me, I think the Jags are a mirage, but I think it was a great win for the Eagles in terms of the totality of a winning team. So of a total team effort. Defensively, they started off slow, and the offense did too. Then they started to click it together, you know, string along some third down stops, get the offense back on the field, and, you know, start creating momentum. So I think they did a fantastic job, you know, when they were down 14-0 and from the point on.
I love it from both of you. I got to be honest, too. I'm not worried. Yo. I saw that face and I knew I said something wrong. Okay, because now I can actually see everything going on at every second right now. So, you're crazy.
You know, I'm chilling.
The Philadelphia Eagles, though, I think that this win actually shows you even more that they're for real, because good teams find a way to get by in games like this. They were sloppy in the beginning. They decided, hey, we're going to settle things down. Nick Sirianni says, I'm going to run the football down the throat of that defense. Extra pause. But that's exactly what they did. I see Goffard mention it. It's a great comment here. Goffard saying they ran the ball. Very good run defense. And he's right. This is exactly what the Eagles did. Miles Sanders was dominant. The offensive line getting downhill in the rain, dominant. And what you saw in this game, I think, on both sides was the Eagles are just so good in the trenches that it can make up for deficiencies anywhere else in a game like this. For example, Darius Slay and Avonte Maddox not being there in this game. It didn't even matter because the pass rush was getting through the Jags O-line eventually, and they were causing issues for Trevor Lawrence. And then on the other side, obviously, the Eagles' offensive line, they allowed Jalen Hurts to settle in as the game kept going forward, and he was totally fine after that. He played like his current MVP self. So I, too, am not worried about the Eagles. But let's go on the flip side here, and then we're going to go to the Jags, okay? The Cardinals, all right? So that they come back, they had their usual slow as shit first quarter. That is what they're known for. They cannot do anything in the first quarter this year. They're kind of not good in the first half. They go out, they control the Panthers. In the second half of the game, they cruise. Rondale Moore came back. Sorry, Paul. I didn't even say his name, okay? Baker Mayfield.
Oh, no. I wasn't even talking about that. I'll get to him in a minute. But yeah. I was laughing at Nick.
Yeah, I think that's why he was laughing. But the Cardinals go on cruise control. So they're a tale of two stories here. They're a team that's, you know, they have moments, but then they have bad moments too. So, guys, with the Cardinals, do you think that this slow start issue is going to continue in this game against the Eagles, and the Cardinals at home?
Yeah, the Eagles play good defense. The Eagles are going to come after you. I mean, outside of Dortch or Green, I mean, who else do they have? D-Hop ain't back yet. The only thing the Eagles got to be, beware of is when Kyler Murray escapes the pocket. If they can keep him in the pocket and collapse the pocket, get interior pressure with Cox and Davis, if they can plug that middle, get after the quarterback along with Graham and everything, the Eagles are going to smoke them. This is not even going to be a game. I think Kyler Murray is going to make a mistake. You saw it last week with the Panthers. He threw a pick six, regular shit. So I expect that again with Kyler Murray with the Eagles. Eagles have great corners. They've been playing fantastic football on the defensive side of the ball. I think the Eagles are going to score here at will, and I don't like the Cardinals here at all.
Yeah, much of the same, to be honest. I'm not worried about the Cardinals or a trap game. I think the reason the Cardinals start out every game slow is because Cliff Kingsbury is a bottom 5 head coach, and I think that they get rolling. I think they get rolling once Kyler Murray starts to run around and starts, doing what he can with his legs, and that's really all they got. But the Eagles should abuse that offensive line, and I don't see it. And the reason I'm not buying into the trap game is because I think the Eagles are that good. They haven't shown me that they let up or they let down, nothing like that. I don't see it from them. And the Cardinals, they're banged up in every position, to be honest. And yeah, they did catch on in the second half of that game, but I mean, come on, the Panthers stink. So it's nothing to, it's nothing for me with that.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you guys. I remember we were talking about the Eagles' schedule, and this struck me initially before we even saw them play a game. This looked like a trap game here, but now, with the way things have gone, and with the way the Eagles have been a resilient group, great leadership, great adjustments from the coaching staff, I just don't see how the Eagles don't win this game, and I don't even feel bad about this line. I mean, obviously, as a road favorite, I'll preach a little bit of caution here with the backdoor cover from the Cards, but I think the Eagles win this game. And that's where I'm leaning right now. I think the biggest issue with the Cardinals, besides the slow starts, is also the red zone offense. And yeah, I think all of this can be attributed to Cliff Kingsbury. I think it's pretty obvious what you're seeing right now is when this offense becomes more of a, schoolyard Kyler Murray run shit. It's much more effective because it's not restricting him or his teammates. I think Cliff Kingsbury is not putting the team in a great position. So, really interesting development there. I mean, we've been talking about this for a year, and we'll see what happens there going forward. But
well, also, I mean, if you watch that game, Kingsbury and Kyler, they exchanged some words. So I wonder how their relationship is and how that's going to affect them, moving forward, for the Cardinals in general, because when the head coach and the quarterback don't get along, that's your nucleus of your team. So I just see a disaster coming for them.
And you've got them both signed long term.
If they keep losing games, I see a disaster coming. Somebody's leaving.
And
probably Kingsbury.
Not for nothing too. I want to mention this. The reason I'm not worried about a trap game is I know Dallas has won their last 3 games and Cooper Rush has looked all right, but I mean, come on, they didn't really beat anybody. I mean, I know they beat the Bengals, but the Bengals were struggling at the time, and they still are a little bit. But I just I don't think they're looking ahead to Dallas like it's anything crazy. And especially if you get Dak back in that game with our defense, I mean, come on, they were saying today that he can't even grip a football. Yeah,
he's looking like he's a little further behind than they were hoping. And they're definitely not going to rush him. That's a different story for a different day. But the Cardinals, ironically, with this whole thing, is they've had their inconsistencies, much like every team in this division so far. And all 4 teams in the NFC West are tied in first place at 2-2. So it's very much wide open. And there's not been one fully impressive team in this division yet. They've all played uneven football. They all have certain strengths on their team, but they have a lot of weaknesses, and that includes the defending champion Rams, who just lost. So we'll see how this develops over time. But guys, next up, all right, so Nick kind of referenced this already, so I'm going to go to Paul's first here. The Jags. Do you believe that they're still for real, despite blowing this 14-zip lead against the Eagles? And we heard what Nick Theory said. He's not buying in with this team at the moment. Pauls, I want to know what you think.
Yeah, I do think they are. But I think that they have the best coach in the division. They have the best quarterback in the division. And to me, I just feel I think they're a good team, but they're young and they're learning. And things like this happen. When you go up 14-0, you start getting complacent and you're like, oh, wow, look at us, the number 1 team in the NFC East or in the NFC. And you start getting like that, and then you get full of yourself. I actually think in the long run, for them, if they want to be a playoff team and win that division, this will be helpful to them. The same way I think it'll be helpful to the Eagles, who have deep playoff run aspirations. But I do think they're a quality team. If that's what you mean by for real. Like, I don't think they're a threat for like a deep playoff run or anything like that. But I think that they're a team that will make noise.
Yeah, see, and I'll clarify for you by my answer right here. I actually think, there were some moments in this game where they show you they can be a pretty strong team who's just lacking experience, learning how to win. Because this is a game where you're up 14-0 against a team like this. You gotta figure out how to lock it down. Okay, maybe they're not necessarily a top 10 team on both sides of the ball, but they had a lot of potential. And Doug Peterson obviously has done a fantastic job. So what this says to me right now is I still think I like the Jags the most in the AFC South, which has been a clusterfuck of shit. But the Titans, the Titans look a lot better.
Yo, watch.
The Titans look a lot better this week, and they look like they're kind of getting back into it a little bit. They look like a team. They should be 3-1, honestly. So they've been an uneven team so far too.
Yeah.
So it looks like that could be the race here. It could be a 2-horse race with the way the Colts have been looking, and we're going to get there in a little bit too. So, any final thoughts though with the Jags, guys?
No, just they're up and coming, and that's really the long and the short of it. They're gonna lose more games like that this season, and they'll learn to win some of them. And I think that they'll be ready to go because they have a top head coach in the game.
And I
agree. I mean, I think they're up and coming. I just don't think it's this year. I think they still have a lot of room to grow. They have a lot of young players. They got 2 great backs. I just don't know what their identity is yet. I mean, they've been passing the ball really well. They've been running it really well. But I don't see the Jags being sustainable, man. I'm not buying into the hype yet. It's too early. I just think they're too young and a little immature. They're going to have to learn how to win football games. So for me, to be 2-2 for them is like awesome. Like they're never this good in the early season. So I think Dougie P he's definitely played a factor in that, and especially for Trevor Lawrence to grow. But I just don't see it this year. I think the Titans are probably the best team in the division right now. So I would take the Titans over the Jags.
I want to say a quick thing real fast to Nick's dad, his comment about Kirk being shut down. This is the second time that the Eagles defense legitimately took a wide receiver out of the game who has been torching defenses.
Yeah, not to mention this is without Darius Slay for much of the game, and this is without Avonte Maddox, who would be seeing Kirk most in the slot. I mean, that's just a testament to the Eagles' depth. One key fantasy development, just pointing this out for the audience in case you didn't see, Travis Etienne actually out-snapped James Robinson in this game. They're obviously going to be using both of these guys, but you can see when the game script tends to go a little negative, Etienne is the preferred option here. I think that you learned that James Robinson's not game script independent. I think that's what you learned here. They prefer to use him in a game where it's close and a more positive script. But they're definitely both going to play. That's what you're learning here. Is they're going to use both. Could be a buy low on both of these guys in fantasy. So
I was gonna ask you that, guys. I mean, where do you guys see ETN and James Robinson in fantasy? Like, how would you rate them moving forward?
I would buy both of them. I already thought ETN was a buy low. I think at this point, you're not going to get James Robinson cheap unless the owner is panicking after 1 week. I would say if you're an owner that had both of them and handcuffed with James Robinson in your draft, then you're in good shape. You could have 2 guys that might have standalone value. It kind of looks like the old Saints teams with when Mark Ingram was actually still good and Kamara wasn't hurt. That's kind of what it looks like. But
Paul,
what's your thoughts?
Go ahead.
I don't really know how to judge him, to be honest, because Nick, as you and I were mentioning earlier, it was so hard to judge ETN because there's no preseason anymore. Yeah. So I don't is there a plan for ETN to eventually take over? I don't know. I mean, it just seems that ETN's the pass catching back out of the backfield and James Robinson is your runner. That's just really what I see from it. I don't like. I'm not really strong. I don't have a strong opinion either way.
So there you have it. The Jags running back fantasy situation. Keep an eye on it. But guys, we're gonna change it up. All right. We're moving on to the next series of teams here. First up, man, the Buccaneers and Chiefs. Wow. I mean, that was a crazy game. You saw Mahomes came in there and puts a 40 burger on that Bucs defense on Sunday Night Football. But then they turn it over at the end late. It gets a little interesting. Brady gets back into it. Looks like he was kind of getting into a groove a little bit. So we're going to make this about the Bucs right now, okay? Because there's a lot going on with this team, all right? First things, Tom Brady's outside life. There's been some more divorce rumors. We're not going to go into that, but there was more today, and it's getting a little ugly. Hopefully, all is well there, but there's a lot going on. The defense struggled for the first time all year, which has been carrying them, and the offense couldn't run the football, and they had to throw the football another 50-plus times. And, I mean, they did actually seem to gain some momentum eventually. But we'll get there. I want to ask you guys, though, about the Buccaneers specifically, with everything going on with their team, Tom Brady. There's no more Bruce Arians, which people seem to forget. Are you concerned about this team? And you can say, even if it's a slight concern, you're allowed to say, if it's a slight concern, are you concerned at all about Brady and the Bucs right now?
Not really, to be honest. I think the defense is really that good. But I also believe the Chiefs' offense is just as good. So I just to me, it's Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. He will do that to defenses. So you can't really look too much into that. Honestly, their offense will get going. I mean, they started out slow in 2021 when they won the Super Bowl. Sometimes things just happen. And, like I said, a week or two before, Tom Brady has a lot of shit going on in his personal life. So he'll get through it. I mean, there's nothing he hasn't gotten through before, but they'll turn it around. It's only September. It was the month of September, and they'll figure it out. I'm not worried about it at all, to be honest. The only thing I would say is the only thing where I would maybe give a hint of concern is they don't seem to be scoring at will.
Aries, this is your guy, man. What's going on with Brady? Nothing with Brady. I think he's fine. I think he played really well. I mean, I just think the defense just got completely shattered. I think the Chiefs just completely dominated in all fronts of the offensive side of the ball. They ran for 188 yards. You're not going to win many games when your opponent's running for 188 yards and controlling the clock at 39 minutes versus 21. It's just not sustainable to win football games like that. So I think for me to be concerned about the Bucs would be my biggest concern would be their inability to run the football. I think you got to be able to run the ball, especially when you have Leonard Fournette. You started to see Rachaad White get a lot of burn in this game in terms of pass catching back because that's his specialty, right? And I know Leonard Fournette can do it, but if it gives Leonard a breather, then they're going to find every way to do so to take the load off of him, Pauls. And but no, I just honestly think their inability to run the football is really concerning to me because you got to be able to control some clock, because if your defense is out there for 39 minutes, you're going to get shredded. And the defense just couldn't get off the ball, third downs. I think the Chiefs were 12 of 17. I mean, look, you're not going to win football games if you can't get off a third down. So I think that was the name of the game. And I think the Bucs offense played pretty encouraging. I'll say that, with Godwin and Evans, you could see the difference. If they had them boys against Green Bay, it would be a different ball game. So, but yeah, I mean, I just think it was just one of those nights that they couldn't stop a nosebleed, and it happens. They got smoked.
I'm happy you mentioned the part about the run game. That's the first takeaway for me because I mentioned it last week when we were picking this game. And just talking about the Packers game is this team, not only can they not establish the run, they don't even want to try to establish the run. And you're asking a 45-year-old quarterback who hadn't started off as well as he normally does, to throw the ball 50 times a game. And they did actually start to come on in this game. You saw things start to click a little bit. So maybe not necessarily worried about Brady, but I think defense needs to hit the pause button here and reevaluate like how you're going out to go and play the game, because this is not a sustainable recipe for a team that has playoff aspirations. And it definitely, like, I got to be honest, I think that it definitely contributed in this game because the Chiefs are obviously scoring points. You're leaving your defense out there more on the field. I mean, really, the Bucs offense didn't get it together till later in the game. I actually think the best that they looked was when Rachaad White was on the field. I got to be honest with you. I think the offense was, firing full cylinders when he was on the field. So, and I also think that Leonard Fournette is just his normal inefficient self. I think you can only get away with it for so long. Like, he gets a lot of touches. It kind of masks the fact that he's just never been an efficient back.
Yeah.
But in this system, it gets masked because he does his part, and then Brady can pick off of, what he does. So in this game, you run the ball 6 times as a team and you throw it 52 times. It's a recipe for disaster. And I mean, I'll admit this too, even though I picked the Chiefs. You couldn't have told me they were going to put up a 40-burger in Tampa Bay. So they're going to get back to the drawing board. I'm not necessarily going to hit the panic button on this defense. I think they're really good. I think the Chiefs had a very good game plan, and they look awesome. So maybe they'll face off again eventually. That would be pretty cool, but we shall see, guys. So
and just one last point.
Right.
I think the Bucs are missing that one explosive player on their team. Like, I know Mike Evans is, he can go deep and all that stuff. But like, I don't think Godwin has that burst anymore. With all those injuries that caught up to him, like, he's a guy that's going to move the chains, right? I think they need a guy who has burst, who could take a 60-yard or who could take a slant route to the house. I think they're missing that because they keep trying to methodically going down the field, and it's a lot harder to score points that way than getting big plays. So I think that's what they're missing.
Yeah, I mean, in this game, they were a little bit more vertical, but they also, you could see they like Tom Brady got into his rhythm when they started going into short passing offense. And again, that's just coming back to the fact that they can't run the football. That's what it is. They're taking whatever yards they could get and hope that it opens things up. It's just not a recipe for them. We'll see what they do. But I mean, in particular, they play the Falcons this Sunday. They're at home again. Theories, you'll be there.
I'll be there, man. I can't wait. I'm excited about that. Yeah, hell yeah, man.
So
hell yeah,
I would think that Brady's going to hear you in the stands, and the Bucs will cover. The Bucs should hopefully cover in this game and be a little convincing.
Yeah, I'm excited about the game, man. I'm fucking pumped, bro. Like, just to go to the stadium, just see the fucking, fire the cannons and all that shit. Like, that's exciting stuff, man. Like, you don't see that every day. So I'm excited, dude. Get to see my guy out there in Tampa.
So there you have it. Look for Nick Theories in the stands at Raymond James, baby. All right.
There, Raymond Pasillo.
Oh, I wanted to bring up a point, man. And I thought about this, I thought about this actually right after the Bucs game. And I just find it interesting how a guy like Julio Jones, who was a lock to get 80 yards a game, only gets 1 catch for 7 yards. Is that, what's his ceiling anymore? Because, how does a guy drop off that much? I'm very confused by that. Did Randy Moss really change the game of giving these veteran wide receivers a lot more chances than they deserve? Because when Randy Moss, he was deemed done in 2007, and then he got traded to New England, and he revamped his career from that moment. So I wonder if Randy Moss really changed the game of football in terms of veteran wide receivers getting more chances in the NFL today.
I got the answer for you.
I'm nodding.
I think that the torn PCL is too much for him right now, and he shouldn't even be playing. I think that they should be resting him and pulling a Sammy Watkins, like I was saying. Just get him ready for the playoffs when you'll need him or want him most. because right now playing through a torn PCL is not doing anything for you. It's just not. And this guy, like, it's
he can't stay healthy, bro.
He just can't stay healthy anymore, and it's sad. So, great career made to an end. But now going to the other side here. So this is not necessarily about the Chiefs, but this is now who the Chiefs are playing this week. The Chiefs play on Monday Night Football. All right. They got the Raiders fresh off their first win of the season. Okay. So this is actually more about the Raiders, this segment. And the Raiders, it was interesting, guys. We look at their passing game. They should be a phenomenal passing team, right? But no, in this game, they beat the Broncos because of their run game. Josh Jacobs went off. I mean, they committed to Josh Jacobs early, often, and then throughout the whole game. So Josh Jacobs' stat line, 28 for 144 and 2 tutties. So, and that's not even counting what he did in the passing game. But the question here is this the recipe for the Raiders going forward? And also, are they back? Are you willing to say that they're back? It's a two-part question here.
I was high on the Raiders this year, but I'm not going to say they're back after beating Broncos. The Broncos stink, cuz. They stink, bro. They got the worst coach in the league. They just don't know how to use their weapons, and I'm not confident in them moving forward at all. But the Raiders, you know, I mean, look, you got to gel some wins and build some camaraderie in that locker room. You know, put together some wins, build some confidence. They need that as a new group with Davante Adams and those newcomers. So they need, you know, any win they can get, you know, after starting 0-3. So I'm not going to say they're back yet, but I mean, I did like what I saw. I mean, to beat a divisional opponent by 9 points, I mean, that's pretty good. So, but you know, they got a tough game here against the Chiefs, and the way the Chiefs look, it's going to be hard to beat them in Arrowhead. So, yeah, the Raiders were lucky, you know, to play the Broncos last week because they could have started 0-5.
I mean, there's nothing for them to be back from, to be honest. Like, they're not a good team. They have good players. They're just not a good team yet. I don't know if they will be. Maybe this is the win that kind of propels them. If they beat the Chiefs, then, you know, it's a whole new season. If they could pull that off, I doubt that they do, to be honest. But I'm not sold on them. I mean, they beat the Broncos by 9, and it took every ounce of Josh Jacobs to do it.
It literally did.
I mean, how many times is he going to get the ball? How many times is he going to run 28 times for 100 and 150 yards? And you know, it's when Josh Jacobs runs like that, I feel like you should win by more than 9. Because it wasn't by any stretch. Like, it wasn't one of those dominant performances where they just wiped the floor with them.
And remember, I mean, it was one of those games where it was a 2-point game right there at the end. And I think where the Raiders deserve credit, besides doing something to make an adjustment here, was they stayed committed to it at the very end there. And the Broncos had no answer. This is a good defense. The Broncos had no answer to the run game the entire time. I actually was surprised by this game plan, but it worked. It worked because the Broncos, I mean, the way it was looking there, I thought they were going to win this game right there at the end. They were down by 2. Momentum was swinging. Russell Wilson looked a lot better in this game. It actually wasn't even his fault in this game. That's the funny part of it. So the team is extremely uneven, that team. But the Raiders, I don't think they're back. I actually think that they're worse than I thought they would be this year because I said they'd be a fringe playoff team. I'm worried about Derek Carr, guys. Another pretty putrid game from him. They can't seem to figure it out with Derek Carr right now. His yards per attempt in this game, his average was 5.5. Like this passing offense is just, it's shit. It's shit right now, and Derek Carr is not playing well, and that's the one thing I thought, hey, this is one thing you could count on carrying over, especially with Josh McDaniels coming in, and he's just not playing well. He's not playing well, and this is supposed to be the strength of the football team. So
it takes time to learn the system, though, man.
And that's the thing. Like maybe it's I think that is the storyline for both of the teams in that game. Is they look like they're adjusting to a new scheme. I think Derek Carr's learning curve with Josh McDaniels has been a little bit steeper. Russell Wilson, though, I'm not going to make this about the Broncos, but Russell Wilson looked a lot more like himself for most of this game. Yes, there were some drives where it's like, oh, here we go again. They still don't run the football enough. You lose Javonte Williams. And then you just lost Randy Gregory. So there's a lot going on there. We're about to touch on that in a second. So in terms of this game, though, guys, Monday Night Football, I have no doubt the Chiefs will win this game, personally. I hope that it's close, but I can't see it right now. There's two teams going in opposite directions.
Andy Reid should run circles around Josh McDaniels. And I mean run circles. Like the play that he ran where Mahomes acted like he was talking to Travis Kelce and the fullback ran on their center. I mean, that's just genius play calling.
Yeah, I mean, the way the Chiefs look right now, Andy Reid making adjustments after that loss against the Colts. You see what Gavard says. I just put it up on the screen. Chiefs are going to smoke the Raiders. David Pasillo, same thing.
Match.
Raiders are not beating the Chiefs in Arrowhead. They're playing really well. So, yeah, I think that we see the sentiment here. But we'll see. I mean, if the Raiders pull this off, could be a different conversation next week.
I'll be rooting for them.
Yeah. So, there you have it with the Raiders. But now going back, okay, going back to the Broncos. The Broncos faced the Colts on Thursday Night Football. And there's two storylines here. Injuries on both sides of the ball. You got the Colts. Jonathan Taylor, it looks like it's at least a medium ankle sprain. They're saying it's a low ankle sprain, but there's some mixed signals whether he's playing. Shaq Leonard broke his nose. And then on the flip side, Broncos just lost Javonte Williams probably for more than a year. Torn ACL, torn LCL. And then Randy Gregory on IR with a knee injury. He had arthroscopic surgery. He's been playing well. And then Russell Wilson himself. He looks to have banged up his shoulder. He says he's going to play. But it's something to monitor here because the Colts defense can be good from time to time. So how are we feeling about this game? And which of the injuries that I just mentioned are more impactful to the team in this game?
I like the Colts on Thursday night. I think they have the better head coach. JT is a worry. I think that's the biggest one. Honestly, like I'm trying to make this sound not as crazy, but Javonte Williams to me doesn't even seem like a big loss because they weren't using the dude correctly anyway. So they're like, to me, it's like a moot point. It's like, all right, like he's a great player, but he wasn't being used correctly to begin with. So what did you actually lose? I mean, other than Melvin Gordon, who fumbles 35 times a game. But, I mean, I just like Randy Gregory, like, okay, yeah, I get it because he can get pressure. But to lose JT for the Colts, like, that's massive because the drop-off from JT to Nyheim Hines is substantially bigger than the drop-off of Javonte to Melvin Gordon.
Theories.
I agree, man. Well, I agree to the Javonte point. But I like the Broncos in this game. And look, when you got two shit teams playing on a short week, I'm going to take the home team anyway. I'm going to take the home team all day long. I have nothing to prove that, you know, the Broncos are the better team, but I like their situation just being at home. I mean, you know, the Colts, I believe they came off a loss, right, this past weekend against the Titans, which was a tough one because they did come back from that. But I like the home team here. I think Russell Wilson played pretty well last week. But I think in terms of fantasy, I think it's good for owners who had Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon and you didn't know who to play. And I think now is the time where you fire up Melvin Gordon. He's going to be the guy moving forward. I know, you know, all this talk about Mike Boone and all this other shit. I'm not buying it. Because when Javonte Williams was there, Melvin Gordon was getting a lot of the carries and a lot of the timeshare. So If you're a Melvin Gordon owner out there, fire him up by any means. He's the guy. So don't worry about it. But pick up Boone just for insurance if Gordon loses his job to fumbling or getting hurt. So, but yeah, no. Overall in this game, I like the Broncos just for the simple fact they're home.
Yeah, guess what, Theories? I don't know if you guys saw this, but Lat Boy, Latavius Murray.
Lapicillo.
Bro.
Yeah, so we're bringing back Lapicillo. He's now a Bronco, all right? Latavius Murray is a Bronco. I think that kind of squashed the whole Mike Boone angle that I've been seeing around in fantasy circles. People are like, oh, you should scoop him up. He's going to get some playing time. Nah, I think I'll pass. I think Melvin Gordon is going to be pretty much as close to a full-time back as possible. And actually, I think Latavius Murray is going to be the one spelling him. Maybe Mike Boone gets like 5 touches a game as a passing down back. I don't know, but I think it would serve them well to actually try to run the football. That would be a good start because they can't do it. They haven't even tried this year. So actually, in terms of the game, I think, and the long term too, I think the injury to Jonathan Taylor is much more impactful because you take him off the field, you really don't have to respect anything about the Colts offense right now. They're just dead. Like, you take him off the field, you don't got to worry about the run game. You're going to be able to pressure Matt Ryan. The offensive line's not playing well. Michael Pittman's going to get doubled up, and he's already having a little bit of struggles, probably more due to the struggles of the passing offense, not so much himself. But you take away Jonathan Taylor, this team's a wash. I think that the Colts are in a spiral, and they're very lucky that they won a game. They're very lucky that the Chiefs allowed them to win that game. That's how I look at it. And we all had them winning the division. I don't think the Colts stand a chance at the moment.
No.
I think it's a 2-horse race. But back to the Broncos and the game. I like the Broncos as well. And look, 2 uneven teams so far. Go figure. The Broncos defense, which has been phenomenal, was the issue in this game. The offense under Russell Wilson finally looked to get it together a little bit. And we saw some encouragement. We finally saw a little bit of the Russ of old. He's running around a little bit. He's moving around, play action and throwing on the run. That is when he's at his best. And it looked like he was a little bit more comfortable, and it looked like his coach tried to put him in a better position in this game. So I'm not saying I'm backing on Hackett, but this is an encouragement in the first month of the season with a new team, new system, in which Aaron Rodgers also struggled in initially. You needed to see this. Like, if it didn't happen this game, I would be sounding the panic alarm, okay? I don't have it with me, but if Russell Wilson didn't ball out in that game, I would have sounded it for everybody. So that was very encouraging. You have to do that against a bad pass defense. And I expect actually that to carry over into this game. It's going to be down to Russell Wilson, I think. We shall see.
So King Showtime, he said Boone or Murray. I think long term, I would say Murray, but I think for this week, it would be Boone.
Agreed on that. Hollis, you too?
Yeah, I'm the same way. I mean, he's 100 years old.
Yeah, he produces, yo.
He does. He looked all right this weekend. I know.
Bro,
I know. It's hard.
He's fine in a pinch. I see Godfarb says he likes the Broncos. And I see that David also says he wouldn't be surprised if the Broncos lost. We shall see, guys.
The battle of Peyton's old teams, bro. That's crazy.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Second best of all time.
You would hope, in terms of the Broncos, you hope that it goes uphill from here like it did with Peyton's offense. That was insane, that offense he had with the Broncos.
Yeah, record-breaking.
But, moving on, okay? So, we're going to a whole different slate here. All right? Whole different slate of games. First up, Dolphins, a field goal favorite on the road. No Tua. Teddy Midgewater is starting this game at the Jets, who look a little bit interesting after all, okay? So, first thing, I think that we would be crazy not to talk about this. The hot button topic in the NFL this week: Tua Tagovailoa and his injury, and whether or not he should have been allowed to play. So let's start right there, guys. What do you think about this situation with Tua? Do you think that was cleared, or do you think he might have played through a concussion? Like, let's talk about the severity of this situation here and who to blame.
I don't think there's anybody to blame. He went through the protocol. They said he was fine. I mean, not for nothing, but they were laughing last year at Tom Brady when he mixed up the downs and was saying like 4th down or 3rd down. The only difference was that Tua got hit and he smacked his head off of the ground. So I think it's ridiculous that they're ridiculing the organization. If you want to go and fire the concussion doctor, like, okay, if he made a lapse in judgment or he did it incorrectly, that's fine. Like, I get that. But at the end of the day, like, these players play through injuries. And I know that there's all the talk about CTE and it's a brain injury and things like that, but players have played. Terrell Owens signed a waiver to play on a bad foot like 5 weeks after he broke his ankle in half. So players do play through that. And I know the whole sentiment of like protect players from themselves. I do get all that. But what they're making the Dolphins organization out to be and all these doctors, I think it's ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous what they're doing. With all the suing going on about CTE and players and healthcare, there is no way in the world the Dolphins organization would ever try and cross that line. And I will go to my grave believing that.
Theories.
I feel the same way. I don't think anybody was trying to harm anybody just to win a football game. I think they went through the protocols. I just think, maybe it could have been, a miscommunication kind of thing. But I'm not going to blame the head coach or give Mike McDaniel shit for the Tua thing. I mean, the only thing I got to say is, like, you got to question it a little bit because when he got hit 2 weeks ago, he was wobbling off that field and he fell to the ground. So, like, you got to make sure that, like, all right, this dude, he was seeing stars at some point. Come on, I mean, you're not wobbling off the field if you didn't see stars, bro. Like that's for sure. That's a grown man hitting the deck. Like, come on, bro. Like
that's debatable.
He was seeing stars when he fell.
Yeah.
Well, I had a kidney stone.
Well,
I'll tell you what, I had a kidney stone and I stood up off of a couch and fell to my knees and cried like I was a baby.
Yeah,
so back spasms and back pain, can bring you to your knees. Incredible pause, but they can. So I know he grabbed his head and he looked a little off, but back spasms and back pain can do that because they can knock the wind out of you.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't know. I had a back injury and I never acted like that.
My fault.
Yeah, I gotta say,
what the fuck we doing here, man? We got a podcast. You talking crazy.
Yo, that's crazy. That's crazy. I gotta say though, guys, I do question the way this was handled because it was a short week, and I just don't see how. Well, first, let's start with the previous game. Tua comes back and plays in the first game against the Bills, and he comes back in the game. I just don't even see how he was cleared to come back in that game. But then, after the fact, it's a short week, and you're telling me he cleared the protocol in 3 days. I mean, honestly, you already saw that whatever neurologist was involved got fired. And I gotta question whoever cleared him. I don't think it's Mike McDaniel's fault. I genuinely, like, he cried in his press conference and looked completely genuine. I think that he went by, hey, he's the head coach. They told him, okay, he's cleared to play. All right, I'm going to play my guy. He was cleared. But whoever did clear him, I got a question. I mean, I certainly, if it were my kid or if I were coaching the team, I would have had pause about this. I would have definitely had an issue with throwing him back in there 3 days later. Now, if it was a full week, I would have felt a little bit better about this situation, but it looks pretty dicey. I'm not gonna lie. It looks pretty dicey. And Mike, sometimes you got to stop these guys from themselves. Like if he gets the clearance, he's gonna play the game because that's what a player does. The player already wants to prove to the world he can play and that he's a warrior and that he deserves to be undefeated. He's not going to sit unless you force him to sit. And they seem to think that Teddy Bridgewater's a good backup. So I would have done it on a short week, personally. That's all I'm going to say, though.
I think Bridgewater's a good backup.
One thing I do want to mention is I feel like they had to play him because he comes back in the second half of that game. So if he comes back in the second half of that game and then you sit him Thursday because of concussion protocol, how do you justify bringing him in the second half of that game?
That's true, Mike. I mean, you got a good point there, and I just think it goes back to the mismanagement in that game. Even I don't think he should have been back in that game. He clearly couldn't even stand upright. He didn't know where he was. And then you saw like the reaction when he did get hit in the Bengal game. His body's reaction. I mean, that was like a terrifying sight to see, and that's a reaction from the brain when you have a head injury right there. It triggered something else going on in his body, and his hands were all cringed up. And he just looked, I mean, it could have been way more serious than what it turned out to be. Thank God. But I mean, the thing is with concussions is sometimes, I'll say this, I don't think they always hit right away. They do, but then they can go away for a little bit, but then they come back full force because that's what post-concussion syndrome does. You're supposed to, see how it looks after you rest the brain for a little bit. So it's very possible it could have gotten worse, the very next day, but we would never know because they certainly went through some protocol and they deemed that he was okay to play.
And here's the thing also, too, just to touch on it real fast. The players in this situation are kind of in a lose-lose either way. Because when Carson Wentz went down against the Titans and had the concussion and they were rumoring that he was throwing up and he was disoriented, all of Philadelphia's fan base was saying, oh, if that was Brett Favre or that was Brady or that was Manning, that was Montana, there was no way they were keeping him out of that game. But then Tua falls on the ground and watches his hands start going crazy, and everybody's saying, now you got to protect the players. So it's like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. What happened?
That was a big story?
What?
With Carson Wentz?
Yeah, everybody was saying that he should have went back in that game. He should have played. Apparently, Howie Roseman was too from the offseason comments.
With a concussion?
When he had a concussion.
Oh, well, he can't play if he has a concussion. So
I know that. What I'm saying is that people were saying that he should have faked it and found a way to play. But who knows?
Yeah, and I see. I put up James's comment. James says he should have never came back into the first game. Once you get a few concussions, it's all downhill. Yeah. Godfarb actually asked a good question. How long's Tua going to be out? And honestly, Godfarb, the way that it seemed is probably an extended period of time because I think after that brain reaction that he had and just the severity of the situation, I think they're going to be very careful here. I think they're going to hope that they go to New York and win this game, and then they would probably sit him the following week too if they win this game. I think that they would probably wait at least a couple weeks because this is clearly a severe concussion. It went from a minor one to a severe one pretty quickly. Wouldn't you guys agree with my take on that?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, look, the next 4 games, if he had to go, sit out for a couple of games, this is the next 4 games for the Dolphins here. They're in New York against the Jets. They play the Vikings at home. They play Pittsburgh at home, and they're in Detroit on the day before Halloween. So, I can see him sitting out maybe 1 or 2 games, but I think he'll be back against Pittsburgh in Week 7.
And this is a great comment by Keith. Keith saying everyone heals differently, may take months. And that is certainly possible. I mean, you look up even, for example, I'll throw out one from hockey, Chris Pronger, who had a number of concussions. The last one that he had, it ended his career actually because he just couldn't get past the headaches and the blurred vision and everything. And it really all does depend on the person. It can be that serious for Tua. And if he goes out there and gets hit again after already suffering 2 in the same week, it could be something that puts his career into trouble, realistically. And I don't want to go that far, but if you had 3 concussions in 3 weeks, for example, that certainly isn't going to look good for you.
James,
they're going to turn to a.
That is crazy, man.
Oh my God. And yeah, this is a great point by David right here. Head injury is no joke.
No
Player
joke.
needs to be sat down. Let the experts decide. It's a great point. But guys, now back to the actual game. So I'm going to go to the flip side first. And the flip side being the New York Jets, who they go out and they win a game in Pittsburgh. It's Zach Wilson's first game back, and overwhelmingly throughout the game, I actually think they look pretty decent. Like, they look like a team who maybe goes back to the narrative of surprise team that people have been talking about in preseason. Because Zach Wilson, I think, was a little bit better than I thought he would be in this first game. And then the other thing, and I'll ask you guys your opinion in a sec. The other thing was this, is I said this to you guys on Thursday. I think this could have been Breece Hall's coming out party. And they actually committed to him like an RB1. And he responded. He looked great in this game. He looks like he's on the upswing, not just in real life, but in fantasy. So maybe they have something here. Guys, are the Jets possibly back to being that surprise type of team? A team that is competitive, maybe wins 6-7 games.
Yeah, I think they could be competitive. I mean, I don't think much more than that, though, to be honest. Like, I don't see it. And now I know it was Zach Wilson's first game back, but Pittsburgh is some shit. And it took every ounce of your squad to beat them. So
Pittsburgh is some shit is crazy.
They really are.
it's the truth. But I'm not like overly high on them or anything like that with the Jets. So they're just kind of one of those mid-level teams that they could surprise you and win a few. I think you just want to see the progression from Zach Wilson. I think that's the main focus of that team.
I agree, yo. Pittsburgh is some shit because they have a shit-ass quarterback in Trubisky. I told you guys in the preseason, this guy stinks. And this guy really stinks, bro. He's fucking blows, okay?
Yeah, we'll get back to him. Don't worry.
Kenny Pickett, he played a little bit better than him, but I'm not really sold on him, to be honest with you, 100%. Najee Harris looks like shit. No, this is a good one. So let me get back into the game here. The Dolphins to the Jets. I like the Dolphins here. I think Bridgewater is a good backup. He's got weapons around. He's got Waddle. He's got Hill. He's got Gesicki. I think Mostert is starting to get the he's starting to get the work in the backfield. He splits with Chase Edmonds, but he seems to be the guy in fantasy. So I don't buy into the Jets. I think the Jets are still in a process of kind of in that rebuild, trying to figure out ways to win games. I think they're young. I think they're an upcoming team. They do have talent, but I just think the Dolphins are way more talented, regardless of Tua being in or out of this game. I like the Dolphins here.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't know what to think of the Jets other than this is a game they would normally lose. So I have to give them credit. They go out on the road. They follow up. The previous week where the Bengals slapped them around, but they respond on the road going into Pittsburgh. That's a tough environment to play no matter what. I mean, and the Steelers just generally come out to play there. I mean, that's just a game I expected them to lose. I'll just put it to you that way, especially with Zach Wilson just coming back. And he wasn't perfect in this game by any means. Like, his stats were not good, but there were some moments in this game where you could see, all right, there's a little something here. But overall, I think I like the Dolphins in this game. I am going to say this has like surprise upset potential, but I'm not gonna go there yet because I want to think about it a little bit more here. But the Dolphins should win this game. They really are a strong unit, and Teddy Bridgewater is a good backup to have. And in terms of fantasy, going back to that for a second, I mean, I am one of the people. I'll just admit it here. I'm one of the guys that was super high on Breece Hall to the point where I probably took him around early in most drafts. But this is why right here. Because if he gets that RB1 usage, this guy could be a top 10 back at fantasy, especially with the struggles at the position so far, which continued into this week. So
not my guy Austin. I told you about Austin Eckler, bro.
They needed to commit to him. They needed to get him going a little bit.
Yeah, let's talk about it, bro. Yeah, I'm here to pod, bro. 2 tutties. The fuck we talking about? 30-something fucking fantasy points? I'm tired of telling you guys, bro.
The Texans stink.
The thing is, though, we called them
Who does
out.
CMC play, bro? He ain't shit either.
Who?
CMC.
I had nothing to do with CMC. You mentioned CMC, not me.
Bro. Fuck. I'm talking about being as a fucker of like a top back, yo. Eckler showed it, bro.
Well, we called out the Chargers for not getting him involved more, and they actually responded in this time.
Yeah.
They responded, and they got Eckler involved, and he got going because he is a good player. You have to find a way to get him going. So that's what they did. They did their job.
He's a beast. He was such a buy low, bro. I mean, think about it. Herbert's hurt. He was such a buy low, and then now his price just went right back to where it was as the season started, and that's a shame.
I need him to do good because I'm a Herbert and a Mike Williams owner, and all he'll do is open up that passing game.
That's true. That's a good point too. As well.
I need him to pop. I
need him a lot more on the run because of that injury too. So that kind of scares me. And also Keenan Allen being out, that doesn't really help Herbert's case, but we'll see.
The biggest issue was they just did not use him enough in the opening month of the season. They finally do, and he got going. And that's what they needed, especially with Herbert. You don't want to have him throwing the football too much right now. And so there you go. That's what happened. But let's move on, guys. We only got a couple more on the slate for tonight. We're making good time here, remote. All right?
It's about time.
You know? Crazy. So the Cincinnati Bengals, all right, 2 straight wins. They faced the Ravens on Sunday Night Football. The Ravens favored by a field goal at home. 2 different stories here. Bengals 2 straight wins. Ravens collapse again.
Regular shit.
Inexcusably. But let's start with the Bengals, though. Are the Bengals back?
Yeah, to a degree. They still have some stuff to figure out, but they're a good team. And that offense, when that offense clicks, good luck trying to stop them. But they're figuring things out little by little. It was like preseason for them the month of September. Because with Joe Burrow missing training camp, not playing anything in the preseason, they're finding their footing. I'm not worried about them at all.
I'm the same way. I mean, are they back? No, I wouldn't say they're fully back, but they're starting to build momentum here. Look, man, it's week 4. I mean, if we're saying they're back, are they back from the Super Bowl team? No, absolutely not. It's week 4 here. Let's pump the brakes. They're 2-2 after an 0-2 start, so salute to them for coming back. You know, based on that, because you're in a tough AFC. So you know their backs are against the wall this early in the season. It could help them, you know, later down the road. But I mean, in terms of them being back, I would say no, but I'm encouraged by what I saw. And you're starting to see, you know, a lot of defenses play them differently this year. You know, Jamar Chase, he hasn't really gotten it going, you know, like he did last year. It seems like they shifted the coverage towards him. That's why you're seeing T. Higgins go bananas this year. T. Higgins is already a stud. So if you put him 101, he's going to burn your cornerback, your second corner, your first corner. It didn't even matter. Xavier Howard was on him, and he still burned his ass. But I know Howard was a little bit banged up, but Higgins is him, bro. Higgins is for real. They got a great wide receiving core. If they can get Mixon involved and he can wake up a little bit, this team could be really scary. Down the road as they were last year. But you know, also their defense. You know, if they can continue to play pretty decent, you know, they're gonna be okay. But the Ravens coming off, you know,
Go here. You know, hold the thought on the Ravens because we'll get to them in a second. Pauls, do you have anything else to add with the Bengals right now?
What, like in terms of Joe Mixon?
I mean, I'll ask you guys this because we did just mention the name. Are you worried about Joe Mixon at all? Because he's been pretty inefficient. He does not look like himself at the moment.
Yeah, he doesn't look like himself because that offensive line is atrocious. And until that offensive line gets any gel or any continuity, he will not run the ball effectively. It just won't happen.
Yeah, and I actually agree with you there. I think it's an offensive line issue, so I'm worried more about them. I want to liken this Bengals situation to what the Chiefs kind of went through last year, where teams figured out how to play them vertically and force them to beat you differently. And I think they're going through it right now. So just by virtue of their record, they're tied in first at 2-2. So they're back technically, but I agree with Nick. I don't think that they're the team that they were last year at the moment. But they're actually, they're back. It's a 3-way tie in first place. That brings me to the other side here, the Baltimore Ravens. And I'll start the conversation here. They should be 4-0. To lose the 2 games that they lost, the way that they lost them, are crippling, and they're unacceptable. So the first question, because you already know about the whole collapse versus the Dolphins, it's one of the worst fourth quarters that you'll ever see. It was historical the way they took that game away. But this one right here, this one seemed to come down to coaching. John Harbaugh, guys, in case you missed it, and this is for the audience too, the Ravens had the ball. They were in the red zone, and they got to 4th down. John Harbaugh, instead of taking the field goal and the lead, decides to go for it on 4th down. Gives the Bills the ball. What happens? The Bills go all the way down the field. They take a knee once they get close to the goal line, and they run the clock out and kick a game-winning field goal. So, do you agree with the logic behind John Harbaugh's decision there, which the logic would be this, if there was any, the logic would be you already expect the Bills to score. They're going to get the ball back and score. Granted, it really wasn't a high-scoring game at that point. So, but do you agree with what John Harbaugh did there, going for it on 4th down instead of taking the field goal and the lead?
No, you take the points. You did that. You saw this movie last year. This is what's going on with head coaches and this analytics bullshit. It doesn't make any sense. You just cost your team a win. Well, potentially, for going for it. Like, they said, Duvernay was open. Lamar just missed them. I don't care. Now you have Marcus Peters screaming at Harbaugh. You have Lamar walking off the field shaking his head. The Ravens are going down this week against the Bengals too, because that's going to carry over. Because I'm worried that the teammates and the players are going to start looking at him sideways doing this stuff that's costing them to win games. You're telling me every single analyst, the Ravens included, talking about, the Ravens defense is this. They got the top corner duo. They can rush the quarterback. They could do all this. And you don't trust your defense? Come on, man. Miami stopped Josh Allen. They made him do a dumb move at the end of the game. So I just don't understand it. These coaches need to stop with this analytics stuff.
And pause, to your point that you just made, they had only allowed 20 points throughout the whole game. The Ravens,
it wasn't anything
great. This is the Buffalo Bills offense. They held to 20 points, and you're going to tell me you don't trust them in this situation?
It wasn't anything crazy. You did well against them all game. You did well.
Honestly, and I'm a John Harbaugh guy, but this is now – I thought he would have learned from last year where he made some of these bonehead calls, and I got to say, I'm truly surprised. I'm stunned that John Harbaugh made that call right there. Because remember, these are the type of games that the Ravens missed the playoffs by a tiebreaker. This could cost you down the line. And this team, like I said, they should be 4-0. They look very good, other than the defense having a couple lapses and some injuries. This team should be 4-0 right now. I'm stunned. I do not agree with John Harbaugh at all. That was a horrible decision. And now you're 2-2 in a 3-team race for first place, where you could be 4-0 right now.
And it's a crucial matchup.
And the winner of this game, the Bengals-Ravens is now going to be in first place in the driver's seat in a tough AFC.
Yep.
So you let the Bengals right back in, actually.
I don't know, man. I kind of disagree. I kind of feel like this kind of falls on Lamar's hands too, right? Like, as a competitor, you want to go for it on 4th and 1, but if the coach is telling you to go for it and you had these nightmares last year, as a franchise quarterback, you should take a step back, say, hey, let's call a timeout, let's talk things through, and let's kick a field goal here. You know what I mean? Take command of that fucking football team. You have to, bro. If you are the fucking franchise guy and you want to get paid $250 million, you got to step up to the plate when it matters most. And
he's not the franchise guy yet.
I don't agree with that. I don't think
we're kicking a field goal, bro. I want to win this game.
I don't think this should be spun on Lamar Jackson.
He should take command. He should take command. Thank you, James. Hashtag take command, bro. You gotta take command, dude. If you know what's best for your team to win the game, yes, I agree. And I don't know if Lamar was shaking his head because they went for it. I think he was shaking his head because they didn't get it. So it's funny because if they go for it and they score a touchdown, Harbaugh's a genius.
No, Harbaugh's still an idiot. He's still an idiot.
No, I'm just saying that'll be the thing, right? Like, how about the Eagles in the Super Bowl, right? Fourth down, right? They could have took the points, but they went for it. If they missed that, Peterson looks like an asshole, and he would have been blamed for it. But the fact that he got it, he looks great. Everything looks great. They have a fucking statue of it. So yeah, it makes a difference. So I get it. I could see both sides of it, but in that situation, you take the points. Your defense is playing well, and you going for it just tells your defense you don't trust them in crunch time. So I disagree with the entire play call. I think it was dog shit, and they cost themselves a win. So
I mean, agree with that part. I don't think it could be spun on Lamar Jackson, and here's the reason why. The reason you can't call the timeout there, and this is probably why he didn't call it himself, is if you are going for this and you need the ball back at the end of the game, you're going to need those timeouts on the final drive. They couldn't burn a timeout there. Quite simply, they needed to make the right call at the right time. You can't burn that timeout right there. That's a horrible timeout.
I mean, I'll counter this. If you're worried about the timeout and you kick the field goal and you make the timeout, you make the field goal, you're up 3. That timeout really doesn't do anything for you because if the Buffalo Bills score a touchdown, you're not gonna have any time. You're not gonna have any time as left as it is. So you're already down to the wire. You might as well just take the points and use your timeout and strategically think about what you're going to do moving forward to win this football game. That's true. All.
It's true they could score a touchdown, but the whole point is either way. Even if they scored a touchdown, if they kicked a field goal and tied the game with the Ravens, however you spin it, they're going to need that timeout on the final drive because the odds are it's not going to go down to the clock expiring. The only reason they only scored 20 points at that time. That's not a lot of points. If they had 40 in that game, yeah, I might go for it. If they have 40, absolutely, I probably. The only reason though that the clock expired is because the Bills had the luxury of being able to do that at the end. Because the Ravens just went for they went for it instead of kicking the field goal, taking the points.
No, I agree with that.
You got to keep the timeout in tow. I can't spin this on Lamar Jackson. I can't.
I'm calling timeout. If I had to strategically think about me going for it or coming up with a play that's even better than what I called, giving more time to develop whatever plan they have for a 2-point conversion play at the time, because usually at 4th and 1, that's your 2-point conversion play, right? Or something that you have in the back pocket that nobody else knows. So I would call timeout. Hey, do you want to kick a field goal? We'll be up 3, play defense, and let's take our chances with our defense because our defense is playing outstanding. Only gave up 20 points. There was less than a minute left in the game, so for me, the timeout that you spend it wouldn't matter if the Bills even went down and tied the game because at that point you have maybe 20 seconds. That's not a lot of time to go down the field and kick a field goal against the Bills defense. So I don't know. I would have strategically thought about it. That's my take.
I think if they strategically were smart at all, they would have just made the right fucking decision from the get-go, which was just horrible. It's especially after last year. That's what they got to do. And then you don't put yourself in that position. So now you're at 2-2.
We got
a
question from Jukebox Talks. My roommate wants to trade me JT for CEH and Edmonds. Thoughts? If you're acquiring JT, yeah, I'm taking JT because last year he was
your roommate smoking.
Bro, last year he was a 24th ranked running back after week 4, and he's the same this year, and he was number 1 last year in the end. So it's JT. He's going to get the volume. I understand he's a little hurt, but it's JT. The upside's worth what you're giving up.
Agreed. I don't even think this is a question. The CEHs look great. I understand that, but this is a number 1 pick of the draft for a reason. He's that dude. This is arguably the best player, best offensive player in the league. He's literally right up there.
And to be honest, Edmonds isn't even the best running back in his backfield.
Correct. There you go. So there you have it. Jukebox Talks. Good question. moving on, we have one more, and this is probably going to be a shorter point. And by the way, I heard Nick say, who said they liked the Bengals in this game? Was it Mike or Nick?
Me. Pauls.
I like the Ravens in this game, personally.
I'm conflicted because I like the matchup for the Ravens in the trenches. However, I hate the matchup for the Ravens against their pass defense. They are 32nd in the NFL, giving up the most passing yards in the league right now. And the Bengals starting to hit their stride. If they get T. Higgins going and they start shifting that coverage and Jamar Chase gets a little bit free, it's going to be a shootout. And I like the Bengals in this one. I'll take the Bengals too.
And to raise 1 point, if the Bills could have passed on the Ravens, I think they made the adjustments.
It was a monsoon, bro.
I think that they're going to make adjustments.
It was a monsoon, bro. Come on.
It's fair.
It's still balled out.
It's fair, but Jalen Hurts was able to throw the football in the second half of the monsoon too. And I would think that Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow and Josh Allen, they're all better than Jalen Hurts, right? Like that's how I look at it.
Different.
So I don't want to bail them out too much. I'm just saying, I do expect the Ravens' pass defense to be better now that Humphrey's on the field. Peters is still adjusting. Peters looked like shit his first game back. I'll be honest with you, but that's not too surprising.
But the Bengals wide receivers will make anybody look foolish, and if you're not healthy, if you're not fully there, you're going to get torched.
It's also true. It's a fair point.
That's just my matchup right there. I think that matchup is going to say the whole game for me. That's why I'm leaning
the
Bengals for me. It's just the matchup favors the Bengals more than the Ravens on that side of the ball.
It definitely is the matchup of the game. And for me, all it is there's one team that's been playing phenomenal football but made a couple of bonehead mistakes, and the other one has not played great football to this point. I hope it's a great game, though. It's Sunday Night Football. This is a good one. This is
always going to be good.
Like, finally, we have another great Sunday night game on the slate. Final game, though, guys. We got one more, and this is kind of a shorter point, so we'll wrap it up. All right? Polls. Steelers, going back there, okay? So we just talked about the Bills. The Bills are a 14-point favorite at home against the Steelers. I can't remember seeing a line this big against the Pittsburgh Steelers ever in my lifetime. But here we are.
Me neither, yo. It's crazy. 14 points.
Kenny Pickett, the rookie, is starting in this game. He's officially at the top of the depth chart. So really, this is about the Steelers now. And Nick, you made some points about this earlier. Guys, is it too soon for the Steelers to have turned to Kenny Pickett?
Hell no. It's too late, number one. And number two, you start, like, this is what I'm talking about. This is the dumb shit that they did. They played this game, and now you're starting them against one of the best defenses in the league and a defensive head coach mastermind.
Agreed.
It just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense from, you know why, though? Because they were trying to be a proud organization. Oh, we're going to do right by Mitch, this, that, and the third. No, your rookie lit it up in the preseason, outplayed him, and you went to Mitchell Trubisky because of your ego and your pride. It makes no sense. It's 4 weeks too late. This could have been 4 weeks of a learning curve for him so that when it's time to go up against one of the better teams in the NFL, he would be ready to do this.
And I'll be honest, I hated that draft pick from the start. I don't think it was a good pick from the Steelers, considering all their needs. You could have gotten Malik Willis in the third round and taken an offensive tackle in the first. I think that they've been butchering their drafts, which is stunning. But in terms of, too soon, I am so nervous for the kid only because this offensive line is just, again, this is the running joke that I've continued since last year, and somehow they got into the playoffs. This offensive line is probably the worst in the league, and I fear that this kid's going to get beaten up bad. Like, I hope it doesn't reverse his development. I don't think that all 3 interceptions were his fault in the last game. I think one of them maybe, but 2 of them were not his fault. But I don't think it bodes well for this kid. I just didn't like the pick to begin with. I hate this spot for him. I agree with you, Pauls, putting him up against this defense. Like, it's just curious to me. And even last game, if you're going to turn it over to the kid, give him a whole week of practice with the first stringers instead of just toss him in this game, a game that you needed to win. And and they lost the game against the Jets. It's a game you got to win. So the whole thing was botched. I think if you were going to turn it over to him, you should have started him in this Jets game and let him get his feet wet against a much lesser opponent. And then you can worry about this game. This is not a great starting point for him right here. So we'll see.
I agree. I think the Bucs are going to crush. I mean, the Bills are going to absolutely demolish them. I mean, it's 14 for a reason. So I think they're going to literally blow them out, bro. Like, I think they're going to win by 20 plus. Like, this offense is lethal, and the Steelers have never won a game without J.J. Watt or T.J. Watt. Sorry, the fact that T.J. Watt is out again. I mean, this team is going to get blasted on all fronts. The Bills are home. That stadium's going to be rocking. It's a hard place to play. The Steelers have no idea what they're getting into this week.
So I think, judged on the three of our responses, Kenny Pickett's getting thrown through a table in this game, right?
Yeah. No doubt. Yeah.
The Bills are going to circle the wagons, but real quick, one last note with the Steelers in terms of fantasy football, because they do have some good skill position players. Is this better for them, or is it worse?
No, it's better because at least he could throw the ball. Like, he threw the interception on that one deep ball, but at least he attempted it. Like, Mitchell Trubisky is throwing 5-yard passes all day long. I'm a Deontay Johnson owner in fantasy, and I was telling Nick, he's giving me 12, 13 points a week. But the issue is that he can't score a touchdown because first of all, they can't sustain a drive to get them into the red zone to begin with, and he doesn't throw the ball past 5 yards.
It caps the ceiling.
Yeah, and I don't cap.
Yeah, me either.
Yeah, I mean,
I was looking through the lines. I mean, I'm totally off a Steelers game. I mean, I think there's going to be a blowout, but there's a couple of lines that I found really interesting. Detroit at New England, and New England's -3. Any thoughts on that real quick? Quick thoughts about it? I think that's a really weird line that the Lions are the best scoring offense in the league, but they also have, the worst defense in the league in terms of scoring against. So I find it really interesting. You think, can New England keep up with the Lions in this matchup?
I don't think they can. I think they're banking on the defense that just had a really good outing against the Packers. So I kind of think that that's kind of carrying over. But I like the Lions in that game, to be honest. I like the Lions outright.
I do too. Although I will say this, that the Patriots like Bailey Zapp a lot. I'm surprised actually that they didn't just let him start this game. And they played a very competitive game, and the defense played very well. So they're going to try and run the hell out of football and keep that Lions offense off the field. But I too like the Lions. 1 point, though, going back to the Steelers. I would say this because I was a George Pickens owner, guys. And I did drop him, not because of him. But if he's out there, I would be willing to scoop up George Pickens again because you saw the instant difference. They actually tried to get him the ball. The preseason magic carried over between him and Pickett, and he's extremely talented. So I think he passed Claypool on the depth chart.
I would hope so. He's 6.
And he waste of potential there. But I agree with you there too, Pauls, about in terms of being able to just take a shot downfield. The one glaring difference is he actually throws down the middle of the field too. Mitchell Trubisky refuses to throw in the middle of the field. So I think this bodes well for everyone on their team in terms of fantasy. Any other last wrap-up thoughts, guys, before we call it a night?
Yeah, no, I got my last final thought here for the week. The Saints and Seahawks game, that line is just too weird for me. The Saints are -5.5. They're home. But I feel like this is like a Seattle kind of line for me. I don't know what it is. Something tells me to take Seattle in this game. And, I predicted the Saints to make the playoffs. So they cannot lose this game in order to do so. But that's my upset of the week is Seattle over the Saints.
I'm glad you said that, Theories, because I love Seattle this week because the Saints are some shit.
No, the Panthers is some shit, bro.
They are some shit. No defending them. But the Saints are some shit.
No, don't do that though, bro. They should have beat the Vikings. They that fucking double doinked. And that's those stupid ass penalties by the Saints, bro. They
had
them, bro. They had them.
Stupid
The
ass
Saints
coach.
were marching, bro. They were marching. They were.
You know where they marched? Right to the trash can.
Yeah, I know. Go ahead.
Right to the trash can.
Enjoy, bro.
Oh, I'm salivating.
No, but like, no. Honestly, though, I like Seattle. I think Seattle's my upset of the week.
So do I, and not even for trolling purposes. I genuinely like them.
Yeah,
I like the way they're playing. I'll give them
and
that.
And Gino better than Russ, if we're being all the way.
Oh my God. Yeah, well, you know what? If we're being all the way, Gino's stats are better than a number of quarterbacks in the league. I actually hate that angle that everyone's taking on social, especially after Russ had a good game. Like, come on, pump the brakes. I mean, I get it, though. It is funny and it's trendy. I'm not about to do that, but he is playing well.
I'm happy for him.
I think they'll be competitive in this game, but I'm going to say this. I think the Saints need to start Andy Dalton in this game.
Oh, Mike, I'm so happy you said that. I totally agree. Andy Dalton is better than Jameis right now. Because for nothing, he was carving them up.
Andy Dalton ran this offense better. And I also would hope that after another week of rest, Alvin Kamara plays in this game. And I would think Andy Dalton is better for Alvin Kamara as well. I think that they need to unleash Alvin Kamara in this game. And I would let the offensive momentum roll into the next game. I think that it had something going here. I would rest Jameis because he's hurt anyway. I would rest him up. But I mean, I'm not ready to pick the game. I think it's going to be a competitive game. I will say that.
The line tells me, bro. The line is so weird. 5.5 doesn't make any sense. The Saints haven't really been playing well on offense. Seattle just put up 48. I don't know. I mean, look,
I don't know how.
You're telling me Seattle.
That defense is so good still.
Seattle.
And I got to say this, too. I came away, speaking of the Saints game, the Vikings were unimpressive in this game, too. Like, they seem to have gone downhill since week one. Week one was very impressive. Ever since then, though,
Well, you know what's weird? If you Google NFC North rankings right now, I want you to tell me who's the team on the top.
Okay. You can say it, as you should, but it's a long season. I told you they would win that first game.
It's funny because I bet the Vikings and Nick bet the Saints, and we were both texting each other, and I was like, what is going on here? Because Andy Dalton in the second half was carving them to pieces.
Yeah, and can I just say this, too, about Mr. Kevin O'Connell, who had a couple of good calls in this game. I've not been super impressed with Kevin O'Connell so far. I'm not going to lie. I thought this offense would be a lot better. I thought they'd be a lot better than they have been so far. But, you know, what are we learning here? This is the final thought. What are we learning here about all these teams with new coaches, guys? These offenses are seeing a lot of hiccups. There's no consistency. And you see these guys trying to pick up new schemes. That goes for Minnesota. That goes for Denver. That goes for Las Vegas, right? All these teams, you're seeing them struggle a little bit. And that even goes for Green Bay. It took Green Bay to get going a little bit because of the change there. There's a number of teams, though, with a lot of changes to the offensive coaching staff, the game planning, the scheme, and it's been sloppy so far. And even in recent history, I'll point this out because it happened with Brady and the Bucs. It happened with Rodgers and Hackett at the point they hired him. It's happened with the Stafford and the Rams. So maybe what we're learning here is there's no patience among all the fans so far. Maybe we need to see what happens in month number 2 with all these teams you mentioned, considering we like a lot of them. As a group, we like a lot of these teams I just mentioned and expect them to be competitive. But it has not been pretty so far for a number of them. Let's just put it that way.
My final thought is no team has ever won the Lombardi Trophy in the month of September in the history of the NFL. That's the bottom line. That's the bottom line. That's my thought. That's Theory's final thought, bro.
Ready for this? I'm going to bring the mic into the scene for this one. Control your emotions.
It's early, bro. It's so early. Okay. You don't know anything that's going to happen down the line. A lot of things change. Teams fall off. Like, wow, man, they were a mirage. And you're like, damn, like I thought they were a good team. It happens every single year.
Any final thoughts from you, Paul?
No, I'm all good.
There you have it, guys. All right. NFL Week 5 preview and Week 4 recap.
I'll miss you guys, though. That's my final thought.
I know,
man.
I will miss you.
Miss you guys.
So, in case you missed it, guys, I'll just start right there. In case you missed it, P&I will not be here on Thursday. However, we will post our picks for the games on Thursday before DNF. All right? We also will not be here on Tuesday. So, the next show is next Thursday. We will be doing our Week 6 picks. We will probably be in person for this. We may not have Philly Phil, but we should probably be in person for this. Stay tuned. All I know is the next show is next Thursday, 8 p.m. Look out for our picks on social. But P&I, episode 112, powered by Playmaker, is brought to you by Prize Picks. All right? Daily fantasy made easy. You can see our code right there at the top of the screen. Go check it out. All right. Also, we were live at the Props Network at propshq.com, where if you haven't done so already, go and subscribe to P&I. You will not regret it. Last but not least, if you want P&I merchandise, DM us for pricing and details. Nick Theory, show off that hoodie you're wearing. Look at what he's got on. What is it, guys?
Fantastic fabric, bro. Get yours today. In case your orders are hot and fresh off the press. What the fuck we talking about, yo?
Miles, it's a little chilly outside. What are we drinking from?
Fantastic ceramic.
Fantastic ceramics, man.
Black ones, you got your name on it, okay? All of this merchandise courtesy of IPP Press Works, Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Nick Theories, take it away.
Thank you guys for hanging out with us. We appreciate all the love, support, and the comments. If you guys haven't done so already, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell on YouTube. We are also available on propshq.com, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeart, Megaphone, Stitcher,
and all that other stool.
Also, follow us on all of our socials, such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And we will see you guys next week at P&I, baby. Enjoy Week 5.